What if you could plant one vegetable once and keep harvesting it for months, instead of buying the same vegetable from the grocery store every week? There is one vegetable that can do exactly that. You harvest it, and it grows back. You harvest it again, and it grows back again. The same plant can keep feeding your kitchen week after week, month after month, sometimes for 2 full years from a single planting. And here's what makes this even more interesting. This isn't some new gardening trick. Swiss chard has been grown in home gardens across Europe, the Mediterranean, and North Africa for centuries. But somehow, we've forgotten one simple technique that can turn a single plant into dozens of harvests. Because most gardeners make one mistake when harvesting Swiss chard, and that mistake can be the difference between getting 1 or 2 harvests and getting 20 or 30. Stay with me, because I'm going to show you exactly where to cut, how much to harvest at once, and the mistake that can stop your plant from producing stems. And if you believe your garden should be working harder for you, growing more food while saving you money, subscribe to Golden Garden Secrets. That's exactly what we're here to do every week. Let's get into it. Here is what is actually happening in most backyard vegetable gardens. People plant in spring, harvest through summer, and by autumn the beds are empty and waiting to be replanted all over again. And in between, they are going to the grocery store every week spending money on vegetables they could have been growing themselves, if they had just planted the right thing. A single well-managed Swiss chard plant can produce consistent harvests every 10 to 14 days for 6 months, 12 months, or in warmer climates, up to 2 full years before it needs replacing. Not because it is a miracle plant, because it works in a way that most people have never been shown. Swiss chard is what gardeners call a cut-and-come-again vegetable. Here is what that actually means in practice. Most people harvest Swiss chard by cutting the whole plant down at once. One harvest. Done. Plant more. But that is not how this plant works at all. Swiss chard grows from a central crown. The outer leaves mature first. The inner leaves are always growing, always pushing upward from the center. If you take only the outer leaves, pulling each one cleanly from the base while leaving the inner growth completely untouched, the plant does not notice the harvest in any meaningful way. It simply keeps growing. The inner leaves become the new outer leaves. Fresh inner leaves push up behind them. The cycle starts again. Do this every 10 to 14 days. And that single plant becomes a continuous food source that keeps producing for your kitchen without stopping. One plant, planted once, producing again and again. Here is what this looks like as real numbers. A mature Swiss chard plant produces roughly 8 to 12 harvestable leaves every 10 to 14 days. Each leaf is broad and substantial, usable as a cooking green, a salad base, a sauté, or even a wrap. 4 plants grown in a space 4 feet wide and 2 feet deep give you enough fresh greens for 2 to 3 servings every single week through the entire growing season. 4 plants, 4 feet of space, $3 to $5 in seeds or seedlings. 5 minutes to harvest every 2 weeks. That is the whole setup. A single bunch of Swiss chard at the grocery store costs $2 to $4 and is gone in one meal. Those 4 plants over a full growing season give you somewhere between 40 and 60 harvests. You do the math. Growing it is straightforward. Swiss chard is not fussy. It grows in full sun and it grows in partial shade. which makes it one of the very few productive vegetables that actually works in a less than perfect spot in your garden or on your balcony. For containers, use a pot at least 12 inches deep and 12 inches wide per plant. Fabric grow bags work brilliantly. They drain perfectly and never overheat in summer the way dark plastic pots do. Soil should be rich and moisture retentive. Mix your standard potting compost with a good handful of worm castings or well-rotted compost. Work a slow-release balanced fertilizer into the soil at planting, and the plant will feed itself for months without needing anything else from you. Water consistently. Check the soil every 2 to 3 days in summer and water when the top inch dries out. That is genuinely all the maintenance this plant needs. If you are already thinking about where you could fit 4 of these plants, drop a comment below and tell me where you are planning to grow them. Containers, raised beds, balcony, backyard, I want to know. And if this is already changing how you see your garden, hit that like button. It helps this video reach other people who need to hear this. Now let's talk about the harvest technique, because this is the part that changes everything. Always harvest from the outside of the plant inward. Find the oldest, largest outer leaves, the ones reaching outward away from the plant's center. Grasp each stem firmly close to the base and pull downward with a slight twist. The stem comes away cleanly without any tools and without damaging the plant at all. Never take more than 1/3 of the plant's total leaves in a single harvest. The plant needs enough remaining foliage to keep growing from the center. Take too much at once, and instead of recovering in 10 days, it takes 3 weeks. Leave the inner growth, every leaf you can see pushing up from the center, completely alone every single time. If any leaf looks tired, yellowed, or damaged, remove it even if it is too small to eat. Keeping struggling leaves on the plant wastes energy that should be going into new growth. That is the entire technique. Outside in, 1/3 maximum, inner leaves untouched. 3 rules. That is all that separates a plant that gives you 2 harvests from a plant that gives you 30. Now here is the mistake that stops most people before they ever get the full potential out of this plant. They let it bolt. When Swiss chard bolts, it sends up a tall flower stalk from the center, shifts all its energy into producing seeds, and stops producing leaves for you entirely. The leaves that remain go tough and bitter almost overnight. Bolting is triggered by heat, dry soil, and long summer days. Here is how you stop it. Harvest consistently. A plant being harvested regularly on schedule almost never bolts because the harvesting itself signals that the plant needs to keep producing leaves. A plant left unharvested for weeks has no reason to keep going and will flower at the first opportunity. Keep the soil consistently moist in summer. Dry soil is the fastest bolt trigger. Mulch heavily around the base of the plant in warm weather to hold moisture and keep the roots cool. If a bolt stalk appears, cut it off at the base immediately. Do not wait. The plant will almost always recover and return to producing leaves if you catch it early. Miss it and the plant is done. Catch it fast and you buy yourself another month or 2 of harvests. 3 varieties are worth knowing about because they behave quite differently from each other. Ford Hook Giant is the most reliable producer over a long season. Large, dark green leaves on thick white stems, tough enough to handle both heat and cold, and consistently generous in how much it produces. Not the most exciting-looking plant, but absolutely the most dependable. Rainbow chard produces stems in red, yellow, orange, pink, and white. It looks extraordinary both in the garden and on the plate. It produces generously through the main growing season, and it is the one most likely to make people stop and ask what you are growing. Perpetual spinach is technically a Swiss chard variety, but it produces smaller, more spinach-like leaves in extraordinary abundance. It is the most bolt-resistant variety you can buy, and it genuinely earns its name. A single planting in a mild winter climate can keep producing for close to 2 years before it needs replacing. This is not complicated, and it is not a new idea. Home gardeners across Europe and the Mediterranean grew cut-and-come-again vegetables like this for centuries before the modern food system made it easy to forget that you do not have to replant every season. You do not have to start from scratch every spring. The right plant, managed the right way, keeps giving. Harvest after harvest, season after season, without asking for much in return. That knowledge did not disappear because it stopped working. It disappeared because there is no profit in telling you about it. Plant Swiss chard season. Give them a generous pot or a small bed. Harvest the outer leaves every 2 weeks, never more than a third at a time. Keep the soil moist. Pull any bolt stalks the moment you see them. Then come back here and drop a comment telling me how many harvests you got from a single planting. I will read every single one. And tell me this: what is the one vegetable you buy every single week that you have always thought about growing but never tried? Drop it below. Your answer might just be the next video. If this changed how you think about what your garden can give you, hit subscribe. Golden Garden Secrets is where we dig up the practical growing knowledge most people have completely forgotten, the kind that feeds your family, saves you money, and makes the garden feel like it is genuinely working for you. New videos every week. Hit subscribe. Ring the bell, and I will see you in the next one.